Hello, everyone. I hope that you're doing amazing wherever you are in the world. My name is Boom Shikha, and I welcome you to my channel. As always, I'm so grateful that you're listening, subscribing, and commenting. I really appreciate all of your support. In this one, I wanted to speak to you about strength versus cowardice, and something that's been coming up a lot for me, particularly, is should I argue or should I just let things go, right? And this is a question that comes up quite often and has been coming up more and more so right now in this point in time. At this time where we're dealing with so many people who are being argumentative or are asking questions perhaps or just wanting to troll people, whatever the reasoning might be, I'm noticing that there are a lot of people on all of my social media channels. It's kind of funny. Sometimes I'll wake up in the morning and I'll be like, do I really want to look at my social media channels? Do I really want to look at my YouTube comments? Do I really want to look at my Instagram comments or my Facebook comments? Sometimes I'm like, yeah, you know what? Maybe let me just do a little bit of meditation or let me just do a little bit of like heart cleansing and all that stuff, and then I'll go look at this stuff, or heart strengthening exercises, and then I'll go look at this stuff. Because if there are some comments in there that are really negative, very critical, very harsh, some of them, then I really need a lot of strength to deal with it, right? And so some days I will wake up and I'll look at my comments and I'll be like, whoa, guys, it's like attack after attack after attack after attack. Like I'm getting pummeled from all sides. And I'm thinking to myself, thank God I am strong enough to deal with this right now. Otherwise, if it was me 3 years ago, 2 years, even a year ago, I don't think I could have dealt with all of the negative, harsh comments that I've been getting on all of the channels that I'm on. Now, I don't want to talk about whether the comments are right or not. I'm not talking about whether, I support this viewpoint or that viewpoint, and you're wrong if you don't support this viewpoint, or you're right if you. I don't want to talk about all that stuff. In this video, what I'm talking about is this tendency we have in general to oscillate from wanting harmony, and I think this is an INFJ thing, of course, but also as a human being in general, we go between, all right, maybe I should just keep the peace and not say anything, right? We're like, oh, I could say something, but it's going to ruin our relationship. My friendship with this person is going to go away, or, I'm going to say something and then it's going to result in a long ass conversation, which I don't really want. I don't have the time for it. Let me just agree with them and let it, or just ignore it and let it go. Or on the other side, sometimes I have fire within me and I have this energy and I'm like, no, this is nonsense. This is bullshit. I'm going to argue with this person. This is absolutely unacceptable. And I argue with them and it does take a long time. It takes a lot of my energy. And at the end of it, I'm like, was that really worth it? Was that time I spent with this person actually worth it? Because at the end, they ended up unsubscribing or blocking me or unfriending me anyways. Was it worth it? Was that time I spent arguing about this item, this point, actually worth it? Now, there's a lot of these arguments going on in the stratosphere right now, in the webosphere right now, and you will see them every day when you go to your social media sites if you are still on there. I know a lot of people have just kind of given up and be like, all right, I'm done with social media. I'm not going to deal with this anymore. But a lot of us are still on there and we're still defending our court. We're still defending our ideas and opinions and viewpoints. And we're still fighting, we're still fighting the good fight. But in general, as I said, my main thing every single day, my main argument within myself is, should I bother? Should I argue? Or should I not argue and should I just let it go? Or should I actually just agree and just shut the person up, right? And so it's just, of course, a level of, in my head, I'm thinking, am I just not being brave enough? Am I not being brave enough to have these conversations? Am I being a failure in a way where I'm not actually talking about the things that should matter? I mean, I started all of these social media channels not so that I could get a lot of likes and get a lot of accolades, but because I wanted to have these difficult conversations. I wanted to talk about things that I really care about. And so am I being coward? Am I running away from the real battle? Am I actually not living authentically to myself, right? And so these are the things that are constantly coming up in my head. Am I actually being an idiot by not actually responding to some of these messages, some of these arguments? Again, there is a balance that has to be maintained. And so this is what I wanted to speak to you about in this video, is that I'm discovering that it's a balance. It's actually absolutely a pendulum that swings back and forth depending on the time of day, the energy that you have, the mood that you're in, the day that you've had, if you've had a good night's sleep or not, if you had enough to eat or not, if you've been taking care of yourself or not, if you're on your period or not. There's a billion different factors that affect you, your mood, and your propensity or capacity to have these arguments or conversations. Now, unfortunately, a lot of arguments or conversations right now are just like, this is what it is, and that's it. And then you're like, but maybe you should consider this other opinion. No, this is what it is, and that's it, right? And you're like, but maybe you should look at the, no, that's it. This is what it is, and that's it. And that's what the person does over and over again. It's the same thing, and I'm going to say the same thing over and over again, and I'm not actually going to listen to your argument. At that point, obviously, you just cut that person off and you let go, because they're not actually listening to you. They're just saying what they think is true, and that's it, and they're not trying to change their opinion at all. They don't want to change their opinion. They believe that they know the truth about the world, and that's everything. Everyone should think exactly the same way as them, and then that's no point. There's no point going in an argument with that person, that kind of person. Sometimes, though, there is the idea where these people they're wanting to have a debate with you. They're wanting to have a conversation, an argument with you. But again, be careful when you're going into these arguments or conversations, because some of them, they pretend or they go into it saying, oh yeah, I really want to be open to your ideas and I want to listen to your ideas, but they're not actually listening to you. They're just there to bash you down and smash you up and then feel good about the fact that they were able to do so. So again, you have to be careful with the kind of individuals that you're arguing or having conversations with. I would say 99% of the time, a lot of the social media conversations are useless. They're useless because there's not a two-way conversation that's happening. It's not a two-way street. It's not like, oh, I'm going to say something and you read it and you're like, that's interesting. I never thought about it that way. No, that's not how it goes. The person looks at it and says, no, that doesn't jive with my opinion of the world. They're saying something completely opposite to it. So I'm going to ignore it and I'm just going to keep on talking about what I think the opinion should be or what the idea should be. And then you're like, well, how about you look at it a different way and you kind of present another viewpoint. And instead of actually reading your viewpoint and being like, all right, yeah, maybe that makes sense. I've never thought about it that way. Let me mull over it. They're like, no, that's not true. This is what it is. This is how it is. And you're an idiot if you don't think that way. And I'm going to call you names if you don't think that way. And I'm going to bash you down if you don't think that way, right? So again, I'm noticing that this happens quite a lot. And again, it's not me being a coward by running away. What you need to do is cut those freaking conversations off, because they are a time suck. They're going to waste your time, your energy, and they're not going to lead anywhere. You think perhaps you're doing a good thing by maybe informing that person or trying to educate them. You're not. You're not doing anything like of the sort. They're just going to ignore it anyways, and you're wasting your time, right? And then you're going to feel frustrated by the whole situation. Why? Why bother with that? Like I said, 1 or 2 or maybe 5% of the conversations are of the kind where you're actually having a conversation, where you're saying something and the person's like, all right, let me read it, let me integrate it within myself, let me think about it. It feels icky because it's kind of attacking my viewpoint in a way, but I'm not going to attack the person back. I'm going to take it, I'm going to feel it, I'm going to stay with it, and then I'm going to give a reply back after I have mulled over it. So a lot of the conversations that we're having, it's basically like the person's messaging you 1,000 times in 2 seconds, or in a minute, or 2 minutes, 10 minutes. That's not how conversations actually are supposed to work. Conversations are about thought processes, and thought processes should take time. You shouldn't just be replying back right away. You should actually be thinking about what the other person said, especially if it doesn't jive with your viewpoint, with your worldview. Then it's going to cause some strife within you. It's going to be like, oh, this feels uncomfortable. This person's saying something. I don't like it. Instead of bashing the person down, I should think about it, and I should let it fester in my heart. Let it be within me. Let me understand it. Let me try to integrate it. Yeah, that's how conversations work. That's why the whole thing about letters worked really well, right? Because you send a letter, and the person reads it, and then they think about it, and then they formulate an answer after a while of thinking and formulating, and then they send it back to you, and then you look at it, you read it, you think about what they've said, you contemplate it, and then you formulate your answer, and then it goes back and forth like that. Unfortunately, in the instant messaging place, or in the instant messaging world, you don't give each other the time to even think about what the other person said. Because even if you take a second or two or a minute or two to think about it, the other person's like, oh, you're just a, they start calling you name, you're just a pussy, or you're just a coward, you have no idea what you're talking about, you're running away, aren't you? And you're like, calm down, person. Let me think about what you said. Let me think about your opinion. Let me think about my opinion. Let me think about the world. Let me think about how I can formulate an answer to you so that I do it in a proper way instead of just bashing each other on the head and pretending like we're having a conversation, right? So that's what I don't like about this, is because I feel like a lot of us are pretending to have conversations, but we're not actually conversing. We're not having a two-way conversation where you say something and I integrate it and I think about it, and then I say something and then you integrate it and you think about it. We're just kind of throwing our opinions at each other like mud, slinging it at each other, and then hoping that something sticks. That's basically what I'm seeing conversations to be like right now. It's a complete waste of time for all of us involved. And so a lot of times I'm like, no, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to partake in this. Even if you call me names, I'm not going to partake in these conversations where they're not really conversations. They're just slinging of mud on each other's stories or in each other's faces and basically bashing each other down. That's basically what a lot of these conversations end up being, especially on social media. So this is what I want to really share with you, is because I really want us to kind of think about, okay, what am I doing right now? Am I actually just talking about my viewpoints? Am I just extolling my viewpoints and be like, this is what I think and I'm the best and the greatest and I think I'm right, so you should think this way too? Or are you trying to understand the other person? Maybe they are completely different from you. Maybe you are in one end of the court and they're on the completely opposite end of the spectrum. You're like, yeah, I don't think we can see eye to eye ever. But I'm not saying that you should let them influence you or convince you, but at least listen to what they're saying. At least read what they're saying. And be like, yeah, you know what? I've thought about it. I read what you said. I thought about it for a day or two or an hour or two. I don't agree with it, but this is your opinion, and of course you're entitled to it, but I'm sorry, but I don't agree with it, right? That is what a true conversationalist is all about. It's about the exchange of information, not the bashing of each other's information. Okay, I wanted to really share this because I'm noticing this a lot on my channel, obviously, but all, as I said, on all of my social media channels, and I refuse to deal with all of this bashing. I refuse to deal with all of this smashing down. I refuse to deal with these non-conversations because they're not useful, and I refuse to partake. So this is my like vent on the subject. I hope this makes sense to you. If you have anything to say on it, if you want to comment below, I'd love to read it. If you've been experiencing this, I'd love to hear about that, about your experiences as well. Again, thank you so much for listening, for being on my channel, for reading all of the comments, and for being a conversationalist. I shall see you guys in the next one. Bye for now.